letter from the Gantry.
Thank you, Neil. I can assure you all that the passing of time doesn't lessen my excitement of a new football season. Watching the rolling out of the new signings, seeing what the designers have come up with in terms of tweaks to the traditional kits, particularly the numbers on the shirts, analysing how fresh faces in the dugouts will impact on the greatest game in the world, it never loses its appeal at this time of the year. It is the start, of course, of the post-Klopp era at Liverpool with Arne Slot, Fabian Hüsler taking over at Brighton at 31 years old. He's 7 years younger than the Amex's senior player James Milner. Julian Lopetegui and Steve Cooper have resurfaced at West Ham and Leicester respectively, the popular Cooper filling the vacancy when Enzo Maresca departed for Chelsea. The name on that manager's door changes yet again. Russell Martin at Southampton and Kieran McKenna at Ipswich have, I'm sure, been counting the days since promotion to challenge themselves and their teams in the big league. Ipswich, who were once champions under Alf Ramsey and runners-up under Bobby Robson, will be welcome back. 22 years since they were last at this elite level. Oliver Glasner has only been at Crystal Palace since February, but has already made a great impression. Premier League football in the Selhurst Park and in the Selhurst part of South London for a 12th season in a row. That's some achievement. Opening fixtures are always special. Remember the first live Sky game? Nottingham Forest 1, Liverpool 0, that peach of a goal from Teddy Sheringham. More recently, I recall a 4-3 thriller between Arsenal and Leicester that got that campaign underway in spectacular fashion. Leicester managed by Craig Shakespeare, a lovely man and now mourned by so many. Arsenal were on the wrong end of the result when the very first fixture focused on Brentford's return to the top flight after 74 years, and it was an impressive winning return for the Bees. But unless you're of a certain age or from the top corner of northwest England, you will never guess which club was top of the old First Division after 3 games in the August of 50 years ago. Carlisle United beat Chelsea, Middlesbrough and Spurs to occupy that proud position. It was their 270 minutes of fame. Harsh reality and relegation followed. And arguably, my most vivid recollection of commentating on an opening fixture has a Carlisle connection. Let me take you back 35 years in what turned out to be the start of my final campaign with ITV. I was thrilled to be allocated Manchester United versus Arsenal, Saturday, August the 19th, 1989. I don't have to look up the date because my second child, Jenny, was born 8 days earlier and 8 days early. Otherwise, another commentator of the time would be telling this story. We were still in the era of recorded highlights, and my match was scheduled for transmission around the ITV regions the next day, the Sunday afternoon. Arsenal were the defending champions. Less than 3 months earlier, they'd pulled off that famous 2-0 win at Anfield to pip Liverpool on their own patch. United had finished 11th, and question marks were hanging over their manager, a certain Alec Ferguson, who'd endured almost 3 years in the job, 3 difficult years. As always, I got to the ground early, partly to avoid the anxiety of any travel hold-up, but also to be in a position to pick up any late information. We commentators do that. We loiter, always with the best of intention, of course. We lurk and we listen. That policy paid huge dividends on this particular day. I was actually sought out in the Old Trafford tunnel by someone I'd never met before and, to the best of my knowledge, have never met since. Did I know about Michael Knighton, he asked. I did. Knighton was being linked with a bid to buy a significant stake in the ownership of Manchester United. Have your cameras in action early, he said. It will be worthwhile. Well, I duly reported this to the match director in the trucks at the game, and he in turn passed it on to the sports programme, which was live through the afternoon. World of Sports, some of you might remember it. An hour before the 3 o'clock kickoff, we were ready, though not knowing what we might be covering, except that it involved Mr. Knighton. The expectation was a wave to the crowd, the appearance of a man who meant business in the United boardroom. We got that and more. The would-be owner came out in United kit with a football. He did a series of keepy-uppies to the amazement of the fans and to the delight of my ITV Sport bosses who captured the event live. He had had connections as a youngster with Derby and Everton and had been a trainee with Coventry, so he knew what he was doing. At 37 years old, he still had the capacity. At the time, it was a sensation, a stroke of showbiz. How much the players knew about it, waiting for their warm-up, I'm not so sure, but United went on to start their season by beating the champions 4-1, a season that ended with lifting the FA Cup. Alex Ferguson's stellar career at the club was off and running. The same could not be said for Michael Knighton. His deal to buy United never materialised. He's still known as the man who turned down the chance to purchase a world-renowned football club for just £10 million. Juggling the ball, he could do. Maybe juggling his finances was more complex. He did win a place in United's boardroom after a couple of years. He quit to buy Carlisle United. By now, in the fourth tier of league football. That's the Carlisle connection. No record of his keepy-uppies at Brunton Park. Much more a case of keeping his club in the Football League. He did that, but he left Carlisle and football in 2002. And that exit was much quieter than the extraordinary entrance 35 years ago.